I'm happy to invite Tom Moran on the stage and talk about experience design in the age of AI.
Well, before I begin, I'm going to give an impassioned speech all in Lithuanian. Come on, John. As if the bar wasn't set high enough by Sean earlier. All right, let's get going. So recently we had a pitch for a big fashion startup brand out in the Middle East. So let's just do the strategy deck now. I'm going to use an agentive GPT just to write a little bit of research for me on what are the biggest websites for fashion in the Middle East. By going to get it to cite the data sources. And then I'm going to hone it in on what is the table stakes that I'm going to need to do and include on my website, but also what are the things I'm going to need to differentiate from the competition. It literally does all this in about 2 or 3 minutes, and it even checks itself and rewrites itself several times over. And then I'm just going to get it to write it into PowerPoint slides for me and just drop that in. That's done. I did an interview with a stakeholder, so I'm just going to use Copilot just to interrogate all the notes after that, rather than read through all of it. It's much easier. And then I'm also just going to actually go and train a metahuman on all of this stuff that I've learned so far and a whole bunch of customer data. And then I'm going to interrogate that metahuman and just have as long a customer interviews as I want, whenever I want. If I've got a question, I've always got that on hand. I can ask it anything at any time. I'm going to take all those insights, slap them into Miro, and then I'm going to get it to automatically cluster it by sentiment for me. And heck, I can actually just get it to write all of my slides for me now. Nice. I'm going to hop into Midjourney, and I'm going to use that to create a nice little persona picture in a few minutes. Pick one that kind of matches what I want to do. Take that, go and drop it into Photoshop. I don't actually have to know how to use Photoshop anymore. I can just use generative fill and just with natural language, just ask it to design the background that I want so it looks really nice on my slide. I don't even need to know how to use the gradient tool anymore. Lazy. Yeah, so I can grab that and I can throw that into my PowerPoint deck as well. Let's just throw that in. And I'll just get PowerPoint to design it for me. Screw it. I'm going to jump into a GPT again, and then I'm going to write a little description of my persona, get it to optimize the size a bit down. It was a bit lengthy. Just drop that in. That's that slide done. Okay, and I'm going to hop back into Midjourney again. I'm going to get a nice color palette for a really trendy modern UI. I'm going to actually use that color palette as a reference, and then actually just start outputting some UI design concepts. Pretty easy, just excite people a little bit on how the website could feel. And I'm going to throw those in my deck as well. I did a few of those just to excite everyone, give an idea of some different directions that we could go down for the site. Easy. And then by kind of lunchtime, I have done my strategy deck. All good. Throw in a few other ideas in there too to excite the client. So if that wasn't evident, all of that has been possible due to AI and specifically generative AI. And a lot of this has kind of appeared in the last couple of years. But plot twist, this isn't actually something I say and I do. This is something I heard on a call the other day, and it was a business consultant saying that he could now do all this himself. As an experienced designer, I had thoughts. I had notes. And AI, everyone's talking about it. We've heard quite a lot about it today. And I think for a lot of people, there's that sense of like, is this just the next big thing that's going to burn out pretty quickly? And because we've been there, we've done that a few years ago, we would have been talking about NFTs. They've kind of gone away for a while. Who knows if they're going to come back again? We've got wearable technology, which has sort of found its way into our ecosystem quite comfortably, and VR and mixed reality sets, which are still kind of borderline, just waiting to disrupt the marketplace a little bit. But AI is kind of undoubtedly here, but I get it. I totally get it. It does feel like we've been saying this for a really long time, like AI's here, AI's coming. That's me in 2017 at a business conference just like this, asking people if they were AI ready. And I got a lot of looks of kind of, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, I don't really believe it, and mostly I'll believe it when I see it. Well, kind of start believing it because a lot of products are releasing to the marketplace now, some that are just pure Gen AI, as in image creators or writing assistants, other ones that are incorporating Gen AI into their product themselves, like Duolingo, where you can now have kind of natural language conversations with this little robot, and it will talk to you and then give you notes on where you may be making mistakes. So it is undoubtedly here. But as a director of experience design, it has made me think quite a lot. I'll be honest, I didn't have a picture of me thinking, but that's the nearest I've got. That's our lovely office in Newcastle, if anyone ever wants to visit Newcastle. Beautiful place. But I've been wondering, like, are we going to keep our seat at the table as experience designers? And experience consultants, experience strategists, representatives for good experience. Are we going to keep our seat there, or are we going to lose it to a client with a Midjourney account or a over-ambitious business consultant with a GPT? Nothing against business consultants. You're all very smart people. Now, I may be biased, but I believe that experience design is more important than ever before, especially as Janet was saying, with all of these products that are just going to start arriving really, really quickly, you're going to need to differentiate. And we see, the experience has been a critical ingredient for so many companies in the past. I probably don't need to tell you that experience design is important. We've seen Netflix, Uber, the iPhone. Now, I will attest that it's not just the experience that made these companies as powerful and as successful as they are, but it is undoubtedly a really key component of that. So let's have a look a little bit about how our experience designers are going to, well, why they're important in the first place, the challenges that are going to come from this new AI-powered world and all these new AI products, and then how are they going to fit into this new world order. So let's spend a little bit of time just talking about experience designers and strategists and consultants. Now, for a lot of people, they don't really care where their end result comes from. If they needed a picture of a doctor in scrubs in a hallway, they're happy if they get that, whether that comes from Midjourney within minutes or whether you have to go to a Shutterstock library and buy it. They don't really mind. In fact, they'll probably look at the end cost and go, well, one of those took a couple of minutes, and the other one, I had to hire a photographer, an actor, lighting, setting, and that took weeks and weeks and cost a huge amount of money, so maybe the AI is a better option. However, we're going to probably start feeling a little bit of kind of AI churn in kind of the new kind of few years coming up. Because right now it seems very cool, it's producing images, it's great, but it's obviously all trained on old data, and then the new images that we create are going to go into the churn as well, and it's actually going to be really difficult to shift out of that to create something new and exciting. And it's when we're in the middle of that churn, when everything starts getting tedious and repetitive and the same, we're going to look to designers to say, help. Can anyone tell which one is the AI image? Left or right? Left or right? Yes, it's left. So let's have a look at our little experience designer here and what she is bringing to the table. Well, first of all, she has a layer of human skills, just natural human skills that she has already got in life. She's emotional, she's adaptable, she kind of understands creativity, she's empathetic probably. Most experienced designers are pretty empathetic people. So they're already bringing this to the table. And then you've got another societal layer of things that she has learned. She's learned how to collaborate, she understands fashion, the differences of generational, what the different generations think is cool or not cool, societal shifts, where things are moving to, the zeitgeist generally. She lives in the real world. She gets what the vibe is right now. Fundamentally, she gets what's cool and what's not. And then on top of that, she has all of her design skills that she's learned from design school or being on the job. So her typography, the color theory, layout, how to listen to what people are saying, or importantly, what they're not saying. All of this builds up, and you will never, ever be able to teach an algorithm this. It's really important. It's a human ability. But that doesn't mean that experienced designers don't have to change at all, and we can just keep our heads down and carry on what we're doing. No, we have to adapt to a new AI world. There are certain things we have to unlearn. Certain things like visual first thinking in terms of just literal little journeys, ABC pages of a website, thinking in terms of screens right off the bat. We kind of have to move away from that. There's a whole bunch of stuff we have to retain, accessibility standards, user-centered design, empathy mapping, being able to tell a good story and communicate why one design is better than another. All of that, really, really important. But you'll notice there's a big space on the right-hand side, and that's all the stuff that we're going to have to learn about AI as it comes into our day-to-day lives. So how to mitigate bias, understanding how AI works at a really high level, data literacy, new laws, designing for transparency, emotional contextual resonance, goes on and on. These were just a few that I picked out. So we're going to have to learn a whole new bunch of skills as well. Ultimately, though, where we want to get to is a world where our designer and AI are working harmoniously together. So the designer is still bringing all of that cool cultural knowledge and societal knowledge with her, but she's also powered now by AI and can do all of that cool stuff we saw at the very beginning. So she's just working so much faster than she used to be able to. So some people worry that they may lose their jobs to an AI. I don't think that's likely, but you may lose your job to someone powered by AI and working harmoniously with it. Let's have a look about some of the challenges that's going to come from actually designing for AI. A lot of the stuff we've talked about just so far has been designing with AI, how it's sped us up, how it makes our lives really quick doing all those cool little jobs and those little tasks and making PowerPoint presentations. But what about designing experiences that are powered by AI? And I've just grabbed a few of the challenges that you're going to have. So first up is how we're going to interact with AI itself. We're going to work collaboratively. So that could be like, a good analogy is like sitting with a colleague at a whiteboard and you're back and forwardsing ideas. That's kind of a collaborative way of working. That's a little bit like you'll have found if you work with ChatGPT and you back and forwards a little bit, get it to optimize the text, rewrite it, blah, 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 blah. You get to a nice result. You'll also be able to work with AI in a supervised way. So that's where you set it a little task and it will go off and do it, like researching, as we saw with that agentive GPT at the beginning. In an analogy for a workplace, this is kind of like having someone in a different team. You check in with them every week or so. You check that they're on the right lines. You might give them a bit of guidance, a bit of nudge here and there, but ultimately they're getting on with stuff. And then there is just stuff that is autonomous. A business analogy might be like the finance department just sorting your payout for you, and it goes into your bank account, and you don't really have to do anything. It just appears once a month. And AIs like this are already appearing in our marketplace and our products right now, just like Nest thermostats that just start optimizing behind the scenes based off your habitats and behaviors. But that, again, this is all like working with. But when you think about working with AI for products, your customers and your users are going to start getting used to working with AI this way. So you're going to have to start thinking, okay, so how are users going to work collaboratively with our product that is now powered by AI? How can we do things that are in a supervised way? How can we do things that are in an autonomous way? We also have to think about omnimodal inputs and outputs as well. We're so used to screens and just clicking on screens, but now we have all of these different touch points that have been enabled by an Internet of Things. So everything from spatial through to all your vocabulary and hand movements. We also have to start thinking in the different ways we can interact. So we've talked a little bit already about natural language kind of conversations. So I think we've all been a little bit eye-rolling at times when you see a little bot come up because you're just like, oh, this is going to be awful. It's going to be a terrible experience, and it often is. But the idea with a good AI-powered chatbot would mean that you have a lovely natural conversation like you would with another human being. And so long as it works, I think users don't really care whether it's being powered by a human behind the scenes or a bot, so long as their job to be done is getting done. Natural gestural interaction as well. Now that computers and our systems with IoT can actually see, they have cameras in them with computer vision, how can we interpret the 90% of communication that is nonverbal? How can we start building that into our experiences as well? And emotional and contextual resonance. AI can actually start interpreting emotions correctly. So if you are communicating passionately or angrily, it can react accordingly. And this is where it gets really tricky as well. Right now, our little users, at the end of the day, they are surrounded by an ecosystem of digital products in their lives. And as we talked about, there's just going to be more and more and more products surrounding them. We think we kind of already feel this already, that our digital lives are really busy and kind of really annoying. It's like life is moving really fast. Your phones are pinging, you're getting emails, WhatsApp groups, text messages all the time now. And it's a little bit relentless and a little bit overwhelming. So imagine this times 10, times 20 as all of these AI products start getting churned out, which is why there's been a bit of a drive towards this sort of autonomous agentive layer around the user. Now, this is still not quite there yet. If anyone uses things like Alexas and Siris and stuff, you'll know that it's not quite right. It's not perfectly managing your life for you automatically, but this is where it's headed. This is where the industry is moving to, and you never know when this stuff might just arrive and work really well. In a few months' time, in a year's time, it could just happen. But the point is that this is great for our end user. No longer do they have to deal with that huge ecosystem and all that noise. They just talk to one agentive little AI bot, and they go and sort it for them. Brilliant for the user, not so good if you are now one of the products on the outside of this ring, because you have this ring fence around your user of these bots. So no longer do you have to start targeting your product at humans, but you have to make it desirable to these bots, which is a weird concept. That is a lot to think about. That's just jabbing at a few things that I thought of. There's so many more we could talk about, so many different layers of information we could go into about all the complexity that's going to come from as we start designing AI products. But let's have a little look about our little experience designer and how they're going to fit into this new chaotic world. Well, the good news is that a lot of the tools and methodologies that experience designers are using right now, like empathy mapping, jobs to be done, personas, even really basic flow diagrams, are all going to be really important starting points for designing these AI products. Sure, a lot of these are going to need to be adapted and evolved, but they're a very good starting point right now. So this is why you should keep those experienced designers at the table, because they already have these methodologies that are going to help you map your products. There's going to be more challenges, though, for your internal teams and the conversations that you're all going to have around the table, such as how are you going to mitigate bias? This needs to be a core principle of your AI product, is you must have a strategy about how you're going to mitigate bias. There's no point ignoring it and hoping that's going to go away. It's not. It's going to be a problem for you. You're going to have to work about how to design privacy by default into your product. You're going to have to work out how to make your product explainable and transparent. As we talked about a little bit already and heard, there's sort of a little bit of mistrust towards AI right now. It's not the kind of golden ticket that it used to be. So actually, you need to kind of win people over a little bit to your AI product by making it explainable and transparent. Environmental impact, something that not many people think about at the moment, but AI takes a huge, enormous amount of power to run. So if you're a company that's talking a good corporate social responsibility game, but you're also building AI products, those two things are in conflict with each other, and you should mitigate that and work out what is your narrative. How are you going to be corporate socially responsible, but also be using an enormous amount of power to power it? You're going to have to make sure your product is ethical as well. So you're going to have to abide by ethical rules and standards so you can work out how you're not going to do harm. And there's whole new laws and guides that are coming out constantly that you're going to need to be mindful of, because these also come with financial penalties. That's a lot. Because ultimately where this is going, AI brings enormous societal rewards and enormous societal risks. If you take the example of computer vision, for instance, it can be used to make this cool product on the top where this guy can point at things, he's visually impaired, and it reads them out as he's pointing at them. But the same bit of technology can be used irresponsibly, and this is where a police force used it and identified this guy for a crime that he didn't commit, and he was arrested. There are already a lot of irresponsible AI products being released to the marketplace, and that are doing societal damage and have done harm. Amazon did a hiring tool that only selected men. Google released this image identifier that identified these people as gorillas. This is a parole tool that rated every black person as high risk. And the Passport Office in the UK released a product that they knew wouldn't work on dark skin, but they launched it anyway. Really what we want to do, though, is we want to get to a point where humans and AI work best in harmony. Now, that could be at a granular level between your little product team, your experienced designer working harmoniously with those tools, but it can also be your product working harmoniously out in the wild. A really beautiful example of humans and AI working best in harmony is the Tokyo Dawn Cafe, which you may have heard of. That's where people with various disabilities are able to control these little robots. And the robots are based on the disability as well. So there is one person who can only move her eyes and can talk, and she controls the little robot at the top that welcomes people into the cafe. So it gives them purpose, it gives them a job, it gives them a human connection so they're not stuck at home. And it's just a lovely bridging of those two technologies and society. So ultimately, if we're doing this AI thing, and it kind of looks like we're doing this AI thing now, we need to do it right. So I'm going to kind of leave you with 3 thoughts. The first is learn fast. You're going to have to learn a whole bunch of stuff about AI if you want to start playing in this sandpit. But also, if you're of the mindset that this is all hype, it's nonsense, yeah, I don't want anything to do with it, I don't want it in my product, you're still going to have to learn fast because you're going to have to defend yourself as to why your product is better than the competition, whereas they come out and just slap AI on the box. Stand your ground. Stand your ground about why your product is better than their product. Stand your ground about why bias is going to have to be a critical part of your product and why you're going to mitigate that and how you're going to do it. Stand your ground that experienced designers are critical to create your product and have impact. And if you're going to do it, and it looks like we're doing it, but if you're going to make a product with AI, please don't do harm. Think about it and the societal risk that it comes with, and do good with it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tom.
You're welcome.
Excellent presentation, and I think we're going to have quite a few questions to ask. Guys, any questions? John? And we also have person in the back, on the left and on the right. Yes, please.
Thanks, Tom. That was very informative. In particular, how you started out actually using the tools, using the prompts, and actually doing the work was, in my mind, a lot of us talk about it, but you set a really high standards, actually showing us how it was done. So thank you. Thank you for that. I'm just curious, you wrote all the prompts and actually did the work there and recorded it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious for the folks in the room, you said you've been working, if someone was going to start out and try to do what you've done there, how long do you think it would take folks, and obviously we've got a room full of technicians, but to become conversant and be able to actually do something like you did there, how long did it take you? And kind of give us some insight into the learning curve to be able to make that happen.
I think that is one of the really critical question, because a lot of these tools, they have lowered the bar to entry. It is stupidly easy to use these tools. The agentive GPT that I use, you just use natural language. Sure, there is prompt honing. You could go and read some articles about how to get your prompts just right, exactly, tweak the dials. But if you just smash some words in, it's pretty effective. Same with Photoshop. Obviously, you need the program itself, you need a little bit of knowledge, but again, it's all natural language, so you just type the thing you want to see, and it does it. Same with Midjourney as well. There used to be like lots of very complex prompt articles and YouTube videos that you will have seen about how to write the perfect prompt. It's being reduced down. You could just literally write the type of thing you want to see, and it makes it. So it's actually a very, very low bar for entry. Now that is obviously pros and cons. It means we can all go and have a go and start doing this ourselves. You don't need to be a designer to be able to design. In some ways, that's good. But on the other hand, it's kind of bad because it means everyone can start designing, and there could be a bunch of trash out there. So you need those expertise to tell you, yes, you can design, but that's what good looks like.
Yeah, we also see a lot of that.
Quick follow-up. So your message would be, to paraphrase, is, we got a bunch of technicians in the room. They're smart. They do this kind of stuff. It's not that difficult. Just start. And you'll be amazed where you'll be in 30 days, in 60 days, in 90 days on what you've learned. And so just start.
Yeah, just do it. It's so easy.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And yeah, while we're passing over the microphones to ask next question, I can say, since we work in the same company and we share a lot of shared experiences, right? As an organization, we really double down. I mean, we are a service organization. We provide services, so we need to be extremely good in what we do. And AI is essentially mandatory thing for all our stuff. And if this is not happening in your company, regardless your nature of business, I think senior leadership definitely needs to think about how AI tools can be embraced for, like Sanchit already mentioned, productivity gains. And here Tom demonstrated a lot of productivity gains for someone doing experience design for products. And let's go to one more question.
Hi. Thanks for the presentation. It was very interesting, informing, and very mind-bending to see everything happen almost live. My question is, maybe I'm not learning so fast, but when it will be capable for AI generate a 3D blueprint with ergonomic design just to send directly to production, let's say ergonomic chair for a person?
Yeah, there are companies out there already that do text to 3D modeling. But one of the things I do think you have to be mindful of, there is a lot of snake oil in the industry right now. There's a lot of people saying they can do things, and it's not quite there yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is in the pipeline. It could arrive sooner than you think. Some people say they're doing it now. I don't know, because I'm not an expert in that industry, how effective that would be. I would be a little bit distrustful of it right now, because I just don't know how you would really get a successful 3D model out from a text generation, but it's going to come. It's in the pipeline.
The next big thing, especially for some of the industries, right? All right, and one more question, please. I perhaps would say the final one.
Okay, hi. Thank you for your presentation, in which you, during the presentation, you put a strong emphasis that we will never ever be able to teach algorithm creativity or human emotion. If there is any evidence for that claim?
So I think you're able to teach an algorithm emotion, to understand and interpret emotion. What I'm saying is you will never be able to do what a human is doing in the world, which is living in the world. Just listening to the trends, the fashion, the vocabulary, the shifts in society, what is good right now as opposed to what is just nudging the envelope. An algorithm can't do that because you have to live in the world. You have to have eyes and ears. You have to talk to people. And it's also like culturally different, generationally different, societally different. You know, every country is going to have a different thing. You need people to do that. You can't really teach an algorithm to do that.
Right, right. And you know what? I actually felt, so this was not the final question, so I want to ask one more follow-up, because I know at least a couple of people in the room who was also reaching out to me, and I know there is some appetite emerging, maybe not enough yet, but some appetite emerging among this crowd as well, regarding a few things you mentioned. Those are very important also in my work, like biases and ethics, and I think even this question is sort of gets us to this place. So how should teams, product teams, design teams, marketing teams, embracing the AI tools, how they should be working with ethics and biases in mind, yet having tight budgets and timelines, most importantly. So any hints here?
It's about including a responsible AI aspect to your team as standard. So the way that you set your teams up, going forward, you're like, responsible AI is a thing we are going to do. It's going to be an aspect of every part of our production pipeline. We are going to be checking against, and it's up to you as a corporation or a group as to how you manage that. What aspects are you going to do to try and mitigate bias, ensure that you're ethically sound, ensure that you're following the right legal guidelines? Right. Is that one person's job? Is that a shared responsibility? Are you going to have a team that does that and keeps coming in and checking your work? I think it's up to you as individuals, depending on the size of your corporation and team, how you do that. But it is something you're going to have to do if you want to reduce the risk of doing real societal harm, which, best case scenario is bad PR for your organization and your product, but worst case can actually really harm people and do damage.
Yeah, and you showed quite a few examples, right? We all seen those. Well, once again, Tom, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.